All right, so as some of you may know, the greatest UFC event ever has just happened, UFC Freedom 250. And there was this super spectacular stage and cage and giant display on the White House front lawn. And so, in light of this, I wanted to see if I could actually map this. It looked like a relatively small area, and so I wanted to see if I could make the shape of the overall structure and, have the White House behind it and see if I could get these things to line up just right. So, during while building this, I had references that I was using, and a couple of them were actual renders, and some of them were actual photos. So it should be pretty obvious to see that the actual photos are some of the brighter ones, and then the renders are the darker ones. I actually ran these through AI to get them upscaled so that I could get a better look at some of these images. But while making the map, the first thing I wanted to focus on was getting the shape of the road around the lawn here where they were holding the event in front of the White House. And then I moved on to the actual octagon. And that was pretty simple. I just put down a cylinder, I believe, and it had 8 sides. Pretty easy, octagon. And started adding some bevels and removing those faces in between those bevels. And that's sort of how you get the shape of this cage design here. Got AI to make some custom materials for me for the mat on the inside of the octagon there. And then quickly moved on to the stands around the octagon, which is pretty simple. I just used a couple of the faces on the actual ring here and moved them out in all directions and got this super symmetrical, really cool stand design around the octagon that I think worked really well. And at this point, you can kind of see I'm working on getting the stairs just right, which is really hard to make this look good. But in the end, I ended up sort of just stretching some of these faces out. And something you'll notice is that my editor is crashing repeatedly. I have terrain in this level. That was one of the first things that I put down. And whenever I hit Control Z and I move back to undo some of the things that I've been doing, the terrain would disappear. And I think that this was causing a lot of the crashes that I was having. So here also I tried to add a chair to some of these seats, but the chairs that I was using was from the cloud browser. It is a school chair. I believe it's by Polyhaven. And the way that I was using this is I actually took the model from the cloud browser and I converted it into a mesh so I could cut the legs off of the chair and basically have these like bucket style seats in the stands. And this was causing me some major problems, as you'll see later in the video here, where I actually lost all of the progress that I had on this map. Literally everything was gone. But before we get to that, you can see I'm working on sort of the overall shape of the canopy that goes over this, which was super hard to do. I was sort of doing these boolean cuts into cylinders, and I tried just using cylinders at first, but then I realized that I needed to use cylinders and spheres to get this shape done. And so using the crossing cylinders and as well as a sphere where I used the Boolean tool to cut holes in them, that's how I was able to get this shape. And then eventually using some more rectangles, I was able to cut out perfectly to get these two shapes aligned together. And also using AI, I was able to get some materials to sort of put onto this canopy as well. And everything I was doing was building straight from the reference images that you see. I have about 5 of them, as well as a top-down view of the entire lawn, just to kind of get the perspective right. And moving on to the White House itself, it was pretty simple. I didn't spend too much time on it. I think maybe like a half hour or an hour at most. This was actually one of the longest lives that I've ever done. It was a 13-hour live, and about an hour and a half to 2 hours of that was spent trying to recover these files, which, shout out to Derek Creates on Twitch. He streams every single day, sandbox content. Also does some gaming as well, but he is an absolute legend. He's a wizard when it comes to coding, and he was able to basically take my scene file, my map file, and parse through it, take out some of the bad actors in there, which were the chairs, by the way, and help me basically recover this map because I had lost everything. I was 10 hours into the stream, 10 hours into making this map. I wanted to get it done in less than a day, and that was the goal. Was not stopping until this was done. But when we ran into this crash that corrupted the entire file, I didn't know what to do. Derek was live and he helped me out. So huge shout out to him. Thank you to Derek Creates over on Twitch for helping me recover these files. So yeah, just sort of continuing with materializing the White House itself. I found some really nice stone tech material sheets that worked really well, and this nice green sort of metal cladding roof. And you could see him working on the stands a little bit more, getting those materialized. I wanted sort of like this red, white, and blue. It's not an exact sort of copy of, you know, the real life event, but the shape of it is, and the perspective of it is, and I think that's something that I was able to accomplish and do really well. So yeah, about 2 hours of that stream was spent trying to recover these files, so it's a little boring, and I'll probably end up cutting that part out of the speed build here. But yeah, if you want to see how this was made, you could check out the live on YouTube, the VOD. It's pretty easy to find it. As the picture of the White House, about 11 hours long, because I believe YouTube cut out the hour and a half where I was trying to troubleshoot because I didn't have any audio, because I was trying to listen to Derek's stream while he was helping me. So yeah, huge shout out to him. This was a really fun map. It was a kind of a cool exercise to do, to see if I could make the shapes required to make this overarching structure, and then also just really simple to throw the White House in the background to see if it looked good. And I think it turned out great. As you can see from the result in the end of the video, this is now public and live on the cloud browser and the workshop. So you can go check it out. There'll be a link for it down below. And you can see some of the screenshots here in the short video that I made for it. So yeah, that's all.